Trump seems pretty sincere about his efforts to acquire Canada, but I think most of us probably don't care to acquire Canada.
I do not want to acquire Canada.
It's a country with a lot of problems. It's
Canada.
You know, I'm okay with Canada remaining like our rogue province to the north.
I would take Alberta.
No, they trick you with this. They trick you with this where they say Alberta is Canada's Texas, but the Canada's doing a lot more work there than the Texas is in that term. Canada's national identity is being more lib than America. I don't think you want to add the 40 million more lib than America Canadians. Their national sport is basically committing assisted suicide. It's a strange country, man. And
we love Canada.
We can still beat them in hockey.
If you're listening to Canada, you're one of the good ones, and we love you.
For sure.
Greenland, I'm all in for. I'm all in for Greenland. That one
Panama.
Just makes more sense. It doesn't have the baggage. Well, Panama is ours by right. So Panama is ours, and that shouldn't even be a question. That shouldn't even be a discussion. That's actually ours. There was a historical issue, a historical mistake that obviously needs to be corrected. We're just going to go and hit undo on that one, just like we're hitting undo on nationally when it comes to the Biden administration, the Obama administration, and the Carter administration as well. Blake, of course, and I have spoken in the past about how we should do that as well with a number of pieces of the 1960s while we're at it, the Cultural Revolution that took place here in the United States. But when it comes to the Panama Canal, it's a joke. It's ours by right. It's ours by right of the fact that we built it, that we bled for it, that the red, white, and blue created it, and it would not exist otherwise. When it comes to Greenland, by the way, and I made this comment here on the program a couple of weeks ago, I'll say it again. The United States has provided the defensive shield for Greenland since World War II. And yes, that does grant us certain rights to it, whether you like it or not. Look, sovereignty is a key point of sovereignty. And Blake, I love your thoughts on this. A key point of sovereignty, as JD Vance pointed out with vis-a-vis NATO, is being able to defend yourselves. If you are not able to defend your own nation, then are you really a fully sovereign nation? Probably not. That's obviously, and so when you know all of Europe is saying, oh, we're gonna have this army of Europe and we're gonna control ourselves and we're gonna defend ourselves. Okay, yeah, go for it. But the reason you have the welfare state that you do in Europe is because the United States provides for your defense. So that's why they all have the free universities and the free healthcare and all the rest of the stuff, because they don't have to pay for defense. But then on the flip side of that, what did they do? They completely destroyed their birth rates. And so they started importing all these migrants from the third world. So you've got no defense, you've got institutions that are completely collapsing, and you've got this huge third world influx, which JD Vance rightly pointed out is the largest threat to Europe. It's so simple. But Blake, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that sovereignty point right there.
Yeah, well, it's funny because Canada used to have a pretty effective military. It was within the realm of that. They actually had a very large military in World War II. They were a full contributor in that one, and
Anzac.
They stuck around. I don't think they were in Anzac. That was Australians, but they had their own very good military. And then even into recent history, their reputation was, it was small, but it was effective. It was competent. They would join us on a lot of our conflicts abroad. But it's one of those, many different things where they've certainly followed many of the same patterns we've had, where you can watch the videos and you have some like fat person who can't run a mile is in the Canadian military. And it's a very welcoming place if you want to affirm your 18 different gender identities within government employment. And it's just everything about Canada it's sort of sad because Canada was a real country with a real identity. And you can look this up. They expressly had their elites said, we're going to make Canada the first post-national country. And we're just going to import as many people as possible from all around the world. And the idea was Canada will be a superpower if we can make us have 100 million people by just bring the entire world here, go all out. And instead, it's horribly messed them up. You can actually go look at the charts. We used to be about equal in our incomes, and now America's way richer than Canada. Canada has all the problems America has, where no one can afford a home, no one can create a family, no one like their health is going downhill. Except in America, we still make a good amount of money. In Canada, they don't even have that. You can go to Toronto, a house costs as much as San Francisco, except you get paid like you just live in Kansas City. And
Plus, it's like awful weather.
it's cold. I don't mind cold weather. You're the one who has to like live in exile in Santa Barbara, Andrew. But
okay,
I like the
no, hold
Midwestern.
on. You're from
global
South
Midwest.
Dakota, which is
Yeah.
approximately similar, but like
Yeah, it's
in
great.
general, Canada does not have great weather. I will say, like in British Columbia, you'll actually get some great weather. Surprisingly, it's pretty rainy, but it's a pretty temperate climate in British Columbia, and gorgeous. By the way, man, talk about a beautiful cities. Vancouver, Canada, is a legitimately gorgeous city. But it looks like, I mean, you know, Canada is projected. This is like the statcan.gc.ca number of proportion of foreign-born population in Canada. On their own website, they have it projected at over 25% 2036. This is their own website. This is a dramatic graph. I'm going to try and pull this up for you guys, but it's like, I mean, they're like pumped about this, you know, that they're losing, to Blake's point, like a national identity, and it's just because they're flooding the zone so quickly, and they have no problem with it.
Yeah, at this point, Canada's national identity is just being like anti-America. That's basically their whole, their whole raison d'etre. That well, we're anti-America and America is big and loud. And Pierre Polivé, or however you say his name, Pierre Poliver, the apple-eating guy, who I've always I've always said from the very minute that he put that video out that it's just very rude and kind of disgusting to eat on camera like that while you're talking to someone. That attacking. So he decided in this moment to attack President Trump rather than side with President Trump against Trudeau, which is just, to me, it seems like the most politically brain dead thing you could do at a moment like this. So you're going to side with the European leaders. You're going to side with all of people that are like Adam Schiff and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi and all the rest, and attack Trump and try to call yourself Canada first by attacking Trump, rather than saying, yes, President Trump is right about the current government. We do need to do better in Canada. And Trudeau's been in power for how long there? It would be such an obvious political move to rally the people, like those great freedom truckers that we saw in the Freedom Convoy a couple of years ago. But no, he decided to say, and if you remember, by the way, I've seen this out a couple of places where Trudeau is actually coming out and saying that he's taking the opposite track. He's saying that we do need to embrace America. America is our partner. We do need to work together. So I don't know. It might just be that Trudeau is a better politician than old Pierre, the apple eater.
That's the graph, by the way. If you could put that back up in the middle of us, that's the graph. I mean, I cannot imagine living. I mean, what is America at right now? 14% foreign born or something like that, Blake, which is already, maxing the population and stressing the culture. I mean, which is one of the reasons President Trump got elected. But living in a country, I mean, this is on their website, like from their national, like statistical, whatever that is, StatCan, Statistics Canada. This is, I mean, to live in a country bordering on 30% by 2036 of foreign-born population in Canada, that's extraordinary. And the amount of social upheaval that you would experience in a country with nearly 30% foreign-born is pretty unthinkable, actually. And I don't think Canada yet fully appreciates that unless they're all, ready to subdue themselves and submit themselves to foreign, invaders that will then have power over them, because that's what's going to happen. They will not have the will, the national identity, or the internal, strength, constitution to overcome these foreigners that are going to tell them how to live and how to vote and how to run their country. So Canada is a lost project. Happens quickly, and I think Blake, you might know this better than it, but they've essentially, Trudeau has said he's going to step down, but he's going to serve until something happens, essentially. So it was kind of everybody celebrated it, but it was kind of like, once you actually think about it, he's basically able to survive as a lame duck.
Andrew, here, actually, it's time to pill people on Canada. This is an important thing to know about Canada, because Canada is a fake democracy. to an actual ludicrous degree, and they don't get called out on this nonsense. So it's not about Trudeau said he's just going to step down until his party picks a new leader. He's the head of the Liberal Party. They would need a new leader who will be the prime minister. That guy will go into the next election. But here's what's bullcrap about it. In Canada, the parties are vastly more centralized than they are in the U.S. In the U.S., you have the Republicans and Democrats. There's only two parties, but a random real estate guy can just roll in and hijack the GOP and say, "Oh, it's my shindig now," and he can just take the party's presidential nomination. And then there can be other Republicans who don't like it and they oppose him in the Senate, in the House, in running for governor. All of that. It's a big tent party. In Canada, it's super centralized. The Liberal Party picks who their leader is, and then there is no dissent. Everyone in the Canadian Parliament who's in the Liberal Party has to vote the way Justin Trudeau tells them to, or he kicks them out, period. And who actually picks the leader? Just anyone who's a member of the Liberal Party. How many people is that? I'd have to check the exact number, but I think it might literally be under 100,000 people in Canada. It is not a lot of people who are official members of parties. So you basically have who decides who are the candidates for prime minister in Canada. It's literally a few tens of thousands of people who bother to vote in the party leadership races, and then that guy decides the agenda for the entire party.